The sun was sinking behind the red mountains, and the wind howled through Blood Canyon like a warning of death. Out of the dust came a lone rider, Colt Ranger, the fastest gunslinger in the West, riding his black horse Thunder. This canyon belonged to the feared outlaw gang known as the Black Vipers. Their leader, Marcus the Serpent, stepped forward on his horse and shouted, "This land is ours, Ranger. Turn back or die here." Colt pulled his hat low and replied calmly, "I didn't ride all this way to turn back." Suddenly, gunfire exploded. Bullets tore through the canyon walls. Horses charged across the sand, kicking up clouds of dust. Colt leaned low on Thunder's neck, firing with deadly precision. One shot, two shots. 3 outlaws fell. Marcus charged straight at him, dual pistols blazing. Colt's horse leapt over a fallen rider. He spun in the saddle and fired. Marcus's hat flew off his head. Now it was just the two of them. The wind stopped. The canyon went silent. They stared at each other. Then, bang! Colt fired first. Marcus fell from his horse, defeated. The Black Vipers scattered into the desert. Colt holstered his gun, looked at the burning horizon and said, "Blood Canyon rides free again." And with Thunder's hooves thundering in the dust, he disappeared into the sunset. The night after Marcus fell was colder than any Colt Ranger had ever known. Blood Canyon was silent, but the war was far from over. Colt sat beside a small campfire, sharpening his revolver under the flickering light. His horse Thunder stood nearby, restless, sensing danger in the dark. Suddenly, the sound of distant hooves echoed across the desert. Colt looked up. Someone was coming. From the shadows emerged a woman in a long black coat, riding a white horse. Her name was Elena Cruz, the sister of Marcus the Serpent. She stopped a few feet away and said with lead-cold anger, "You killed my brother." Colt didn't flinch. "Your brother killed innocent people," he replied quietly. "I just ended it." Elena's eyes burned like fire. "You didn't end it," she said. "You started something bigger." Before Colt could speak, a line of riders appeared behind her, over 30 armed outlaws. The Black Vipers had returned, and now they were thirsting for revenge. Thunder stomped the ground. The fight was coming. Elena raised her pistol and shouted, "Take him down!" The desert exploded into chaos. Colt jumped onto Thunder's back as bullets ripped through the air. He galloped between the rocks, firing as he rode. One outlaw fell, then another. Thunder ran like lightning, dodging gunfire. Colt spotted Elena racing toward him with her rifle drawn. He turned his horse sharply and shouted, "This ends tonight." They charged straight at each other. Dust, fire, and gunshots filled the canyon. Colt fired, but Elena was faster. Her bullet struck Thunder's saddle, knocking Colt to the ground. He rolled across the sand, grabbing his revolver. Elena aimed at his chest. For a moment, everything went silent. Then Colt whispered, "You're not your brother." Elena hesitated. That was all Colt needed. Bang! He shot the rifle out of her hands. The remaining Black Vipers backed away, fear in their eyes. Elena slowly stood up, defeated but alive. Colt walked to Thunder and checked the horse. Just a scratch. Thunder would ride again. Elena looked at Colt and said, "This isn't over, Ranger." Colt climbed back into the saddle and replied, "It will be when the West is finally free." And as dawn began to rise over Blood Canyon, the legend of Colt Ranger continued. The sun had barely risen when the earth began to tremble. Colt Ranger and Thunder were riding through the far end of Blood Canyon, following the trail of the remaining Black Vipers. The wind carried the smell of gunpowder and burning wood, a sign that another battle was coming. Up ahead, the desert was filled with smoke. Colt tightened the reins. As he reached the ridge, he saw something that made his blood run cold. A new army of riders had taken over the canyon. They called themselves the Storm Riders, merciless outlaws who wore red bandanas and rode armored horses. And standing at the center was a tall man with a steel rifle and a scar across his face. General Kane. He was the most feared warlord in the West. Elena Cruz was standing beside him. She had made an alliance. Kane looked at Colt from across the canyon and laughed. "So, the famous ranger finally shows his face," Kane shouted. "I was hoping you'd come." Colt replied, "I'm here to finish what I started." Kane raised his rifle. "Then come and die." Suddenly, the Storm Riders charged. Hundreds of hooves thundered across the canyon floor. Colt kicked Thunder forward and rode straight into the battlefield. Bullets flew, horses screamed. Dust turned the morning sky dark like a storm. Colt fired left and right, taking down riders as he galloped through the chaos. Thunder smashed through the enemy lines like a black tornado. Colt saw Kane advancing from the other side, firing his steel rifle with deadly accuracy. Colt leaned low and dodged every shot. Then he saw Eleanor aiming from the cliff above. If she fired, the canyon would collapse on him. Colt had only seconds. He pulled out a small dynamite stick from his saddlebag, lit it and hurled it toward the cliff. Boom! The rock shattered, forcing Elena to retreat. Now it was Colt versus Kane. They charged toward each other at full speed. Gunshots echoed. Kane's bullet grazed Colt's arm. Colt's shot shattered Kane's rifle. Both men jumped off their horses and landed in the dust. The final duel had begun. They walked in circles, eyes locked. The wind stopped again, as if the whole West was watching. Kane pulled a hidden pistol from his coat. Colt did the same. 1 second. 2 seconds. 3. Bang! 2 shots rang out at the same time. Kane dropped to his knees. Colt stood, wounded but alive. The storm riders froze. Their leader was defeated. Colt climbed back onto Thunder and shouted, "Blood Canyon belongs to no gang. It belongs to the free riders of the West." The storm riders fled into the desert. Elena watched from the distance, her eyes filled with rage and determination. She knew this war wasn't over. As Colt rode into the sunrise once again, the legend of the Blood Canyon Showdown grew stronger. Days passed after the fall of General Kane, but Blood Canyon was still burning. Colt Ranger rode alone across the endless desert, his wounded arm wrapped in cloth. Thunder's hooves slow but steady. He knew one thing. Elena Cruz was still out there, and she wasn't running anymore. She was hunting. That night, Colt reached an abandoned ghost town called Silver Hollow. The wooden buildings creaked in the wind. Broken windows rattled like bones. Thunder stopped walking. Something felt wrong. Colt stepped off his horse, hand resting on his revolver. From the shadows came a deep voice. "You took everything from me, Ranger." Colt turned. It was Eleanor. But she wasn't alone. Standing beside her was an older man, with a long gray beard and a golden pistol on his belt. Colt's eyes widened. Sheriff Dalton. Dalton was the man who had once trained Colt, the man he trusted like a father. Dalton spoke calmly. "You left the law behind, Colt. Now the West belongs to those strong enough to take it." Colt's jaw tightened. "You joined the outlaws?" Dalton nodded. "The law failed. Power is the only truth now." Elena stepped forward and said, "Tonight you face your past, and your end." Suddenly, the Silver Hollow rooftops filled with snipers. Colt was trapped. Thunder neighed loudly, ready to fight. Colt jumped into the saddle and whispered, "Easy, boy. We ride through hell if we have to." The battle began. Gunshots lit up the ghost town. Colt rode between buildings, firing with precision. Each shot dropped an outlaw from the rooftops. Dalton watched from the center of town, his golden pistol still holstered. He wanted a fair duel. Colt stopped Thunder in the dusty street. The town went quiet. Dalton finally drew his golden revolver. "I taught you everything you know," Dalton said. Colt replied, "Then you know I won't miss." They stared at each other. Old friends, now enemies. The wind howled. Bang! Dalton fired first. Colt rolled off Thunder and shot back. Dalton's hat flew off. Colt stood and aimed again, but Dalton smiled. "You've grown," he said. Then Elena fired from behind. Her bullet struck Colt in the shoulder. He fell to one knee. Thunder kicked wildly, knocking her horse aside. Colt raised his gun one last time. Bang! He hit Elena's pistol, sending it flying. Dalton rushed to her side and helped her retreat. Before disappearing into the dark, Elena shouted, "This war isn't over, Ranger. Next time you won't walk away." Colt held his bleeding shoulder and slowly stood. Thunder returned to him, loyal as ever. Colt climbed back onto the saddle and looked at the burning moonlit sky. "Then I'll ride until the war is finished," he said. And with Thunder's hooves echoing through the desert night, Colt Ranger rode on. The legend continued.